Hello. In this episode, we are sitting down with our resident human design expert and host of the You Do Woo podcast, Allison Cullen, to get energy updates and catch up on all things woo. Hello, Allison Cullen.
Hello. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. We are recording earlier than I usually record, which I'm not mad at. I feel like this is my most awake, alert, high vibe self. So I'm just excited more than anything to catch up with you.
I know. I feel like we're just in a digital coffee shop catching up over coffee. And
That's
I like the fresh morning. I usually record in the afternoon too, just because I'm most creative in the morning. And then I'm like, okay, that's when I'm going to do all of the business things. But then I'm like, well, but this creativity is podcast recording is creating something. So maybe I should play around with the morning episodes too.
Well, we have to because we're sleep training-ish, right? So now his naps have moved more to the afternoon. So I'm just having to switch it up, and I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I've got my coffee and I've got my friend, and this is going to be amazing. And we just figured out that the last time you were on the podcast, because this is the third or fourth time, I can't remember.
I think it's a third time.
And the last time was about a year ago. So we have a lot to catch up on. And we're going to talk about new paradigms. We're going to talk about, just all overall energy updates. And it's going to be fun. So first, just tell me where you have been. What's been going on since the last time we've spoken? How's business? How are things?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I was in your 2023 mastermind, which was a freaking vibe. That's one thing we're going to talk about today as well, just the energies changing. Finding community is such an important thing for the next 3 years or so. And I was so grateful to have that last year. And I'm working on getting myself into the correct community this year. We're not there yet, but it's when you're around people who are willing to talk about the hard shit they're going through. Their business might be perfect, but personal life stuff is hard, or vice versa, or chaos in all the areas, which is a thing that I dealt with in 2023, but I'm realizing that it was a blessing. It's for so long, and part of the old paradigm was us putting masks on and just going through life, pretending to be okay, pretending that everything was put together. And that's just not the way it's going to be anymore. And I've been in 2 of your masterminds now. Being a part of those was such an up level, not only with your business mentorship, but with just being with so many other women who are sort of unveiling their masks and talking about like what's really going on behind the scenes, talking about the things that they didn't think were going to be hard, but would be hard. And the things that, even though life is so perfect in so many ways, this one thing like marriage or parenting, like freaking sleep, Lord have mercy. Like when we don't have our sleep, it's just like, it's crazy making. And you don't realize how much that can affect literally every part of your life, your thoughts, words, actions, your vibration, all of that kind of stuff. And so being a part of that was like so huge. And then I went through a little bit of a dark night of the soul. I think literally the day I left your mastermind, I got pregnant, didn't know it till like 3, we weren't trying. So, I had ovulated super late and whatever. So got pregnant, didn't know it till like very end of July. And I'm very big into, there's a book called Spirit Babies. So I'm really big into communicating with your baby before conception and during pregnancy and all of that kind of stuff. And from the beginning, it was like once I found out I was pregnant, I was like, there's this baby is circling, but I don't know if he's gonna, stay. And he decided to leave at 12 weeks. And go back into the spirit world. And it was literally one of the hardest things of my adult life. And I felt this weird peace about timing that he was just like, because his birthday would have been end of March. So, he would be on Earth around this time. But I just felt like timing wise, it was that soul was like, not right now. Let me go back to heaven, chill a little bit and come back. So we've been taking sort of a break from that. And now that we're at that time where he would have been born, I'm like, oh, I know why. There's like so many things. We're renting a house and we're wanting to find our forever home and get set up and like all of that kind of stuff. And we're selling some investment properties, and we're not where I would feel good bringing a baby into the world. Not that anybody's ever 100% ready, but it would have just been a little too chaotic. And I feel like my faith in God and God's timing has strengthened because of that. And being able to, I'm sure you do talk about this on your podcast all the time. And I can't wait to listen to your convo with Melanie and Lair, because I'm sure y'all talked about this too. It hasn't come out yet by the time we're recording this. But like, I now know that timing is literally everything, and that God is always either putting things together, helping me co-create perfect situations, or he's protecting me, And I just really it's the weirdest thing, because so many external things in my life in the past 6 to 12 months, people would be like, wow, she's gone through the freaking ringer. And I have in 3D reality, but like, I'm so at peace in my soul with everything's going to be okay. It's all good. So I've refined per your business mentorship. I simplified a ton. You helped me last year to scale. Like you were like, I wish I would have scaled earlier. And I was like, okay, I don't know that I'm quite ready, but we're going to start. Here we go. And we started doing that through my membership. I cut back a lot of just extra things that weren't a hell yes. And now have a pretty simple, but scalable situation currently. And I'm still doing a lot of one-on-one while I have the time for it, but I've also set up the scalable aspects of my business as well, through your one-on-one mentorship, and also some of your other programs that you released like in the fall. That was like a huge, like the many chat deal and all of that was like really, really huge for my business. It's pretty cool once you get those tiny things set up, how they can grow. So I'm sort of in that lag time where it's like you've set all the things up and you just sort of have to wait for it to build and compound, but enjoying that process. So yeah, that's where I've been.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm sorry what you had to go through last year in that season. And I can only imagine how your emotions and what's coming up for you this month as his birthday approaches. I know that can be so hard. And I actually have another friend who went through also a miscarriage, very similar timing. And the way that she speaks on this is very similar to how you're speaking on this. Of course, there's so much heartache. I mean, it's one of the most heartbreaking from what I've gathered. I haven't experienced this myself, so I can't speak on it. But from the women, and so many women that I've spoken to that have, it's one of the most heartbreaking experiences that you could ever go through. And I've seen women reflect on it where they have no peace. There's like, this makes no sense. Why? And rightfully so. And then, like you and my other friend, there's this deeper level of, okay, this is heartbreaking, and I can see the divineness within it and the timing within it, that for whatever reason I may not fully understand right now, it had to happen this way. And I do believe that deeper level of peace is available in so many situations. And hearing you reflect on it makes me think of something. I just saw somebody say this, and I wish I remember. This is like me. We're all like scrolling on the internet. I'll see something. I'm like, damn it, I need to write down so I can give credit to whoever said this. But they said, like, if you're going to trust God during the good times and give God glory during the good times and praise him when things are going well and say, yes, he's got my back. See, he's got my back. Then you have to believe the same thing when things go seemingly wrong, when things don't go as planned. That's when, like, you can't only believe that he's got your back just when things go well. We have such a limited perspective, and it sounds like that's where you're at. And it's just a whole other layer of trust that is really, really hard to access. So I just honor you for sharing that with us and for kind of raising our awareness at this deeper level.
Yeah, it's looking back now, I know I probably won't know all the reasons for it until I get to heaven, but right. Or have a chat with this baby or ask him what the deal was. But I was thinking back on this, and I was raised Christian, still consider myself a Christian, but in my late 20s, early 30s, sort of like stopped going to church, pulled away a little bit, never mad. Sometimes people get like angry with God where it's like, you did this. I never like had that. I always felt close to God, but it wasn't until becoming a mom. And then was it late 2020 that I think decided to join your mastermind that first time. And you were at that time, super big into journaling. And I had always journaled, especially the previous like 7 years or so, but not like journaled talking to God, right? And you were the person who sort of brought that idea back into my life. And I looked at you where I was like, okay, she's not just this like, what is, Bible beater, that kind of person. You're very open-minded, you're very spiritual, but you had this daily time with God in the morning where you were writing out your gratitude and writing out your future and co-creating that with him. And that's when I started doing that again. I was always journaling, but like really started having the one-on-one convo with God. And it was great. But I remember talking to you. It was maybe a little over a year ago when I had like a $17,000 month. And I was like, Allie, I'm not excited by this. Like I needed the money, the money was good. It wasn't like I'm a multimillionaire, so $17,000 doesn't matter to me. Like it wasn't that kind of thing. It was like, there was like a lack of gratitude and a lack of fulfillment. And I think there were several things to be learned from that. You were like, hey, we got to have some like intentional gratitude practice here because that's a really big deal. And we need to be feeling the good vibes from that, and you helped me in that way. And then I also like, there were several different things where it's like, money's not the end all be all, obviously. My prayer now is to make millions of dollars and feel total fulfillment for every single dollar that I make. Right.
Yeah.
But at that time, that was like a weird thing. I was like, oh my God, Allie, like I had my best month ever and I feel nothing. And this is a problem. So I started talking to God about that. Because like, as you said, the connection that we have to God, like the connection that we have to God is what he wants. And if life starts going good and we stop talking to him, then it's like, okay, well then here, let me make some difficult situations for you that'll grow you as a person and bring you back to me. And I don't think that God is like wanting bad for us. I think he wants us to have literally everything that we want on the material plane and the spiritual plane. Like he wants us to have it all. But for me, it was like, okay, if she can't have gratitude for that kind of money, what are we doing here? We got some stuff to clean up, right? And that started probably a year and a half of, I don't know, ego death situations and soul growth, soul reminders, and having certain things taken away for a moment that I know will come back, like being pregnant, right? Yeah. Being like, okay, I can't, I'm 40. So that's always that's a whole other, a lot of untruths we're told about being able to become pregnant after 40. Like I know plenty of people now, so I'm like, okay, I'm not worried about that anymore. So, but I think God enabled me to get pregnant, to be like, you can do this. Your body can do this. and it's not the right timing, So then took that away, or the baby wasn't ready yet. The baby wanted a different body or different timing or whatever. But I know that when I get pregnant again, I think there's going to be some sense of fear that I'm going to have to work on with God, just of being like, okay, because normally you get to 12 weeks and you're like, okay, good to go. Like I can tell the world now, like that's when we told everybody about Caroline. And I was like, okay. So just being a little bit more going to God every day with that. I'm sure I'm going to have fears that come up, but I might not. I don't know. I might not. All that fear might have been cleansed somehow. But I'm going to appreciate being pregnant so much more than if I wouldn't have lost that little boy,
Yes. And and this is something that I can relate to in a few different ways. Recently, like late last year, experiencing income dips, right? My overhead was so high and revenue had dipped a little bit. So like my net was way smaller than I was used to. And it got to the point. So like, that's one example where reflecting on the year before where it was like overflow, and it was just a different situation. Yeah, I can see where it almost it turned into this thing that I was so grateful for, right? Because like when you're starting a business, it's like every dollar that comes in, you're like, and you're celebrating every milestone. And then it's okay. And it's good to be grounded in your, at certain or different levels of wealth and whatever, like that's not a bad thing. But I for sure had lost touch with the gratitude. And then experiencing that dip and then feeling it come back up again. It was like, okay, I see. I see where I had lost sight a little bit. I had lost my, touch with my faith. I'd let go for sure of a lot of my spirituality practices and talking to God. And I don't think, and like you said, God's not spiteful and is like, hey, where you been? Oh, okay. You think you can do this all on your own? That's not, but I do believe that when we are not in a vibe of gratitude or whatever, and this is just like a money example. I'm certainly not saying this about your miscarriage.
Yeah.
But like for me, it was an opportunity to get back in touch with what was important for me and why I'm doing this. I had lost the point. I had lost the plot. It became more about like, 6-figure months. Let's see if we can do it again. And let's see how fast we can do this and how fast. It's not the point. It gets to be an addition. It gets to be something that we want, but it's not like we lose sight of the plot. So there's like that. And then like whenever, the Instagram drama just went down in my world, that was another thing too. It was like to lose something and come back. That's when, unfortunately, we feel the deepest level of gratitude for the thing that we had, right? Yep. So to get a second chance at this, I do believe that sometimes we get things taken away just to bring back that level of awareness and gratitude of having it in the first place.
100%. And the same thing happened to us in 2023 financially. We made the decision to move, and we had 2 houses. And then, so we have 2 houses, came and got a rent house here in our new town. So we had basically 3 mortgages we're paying for. Because one, sometimes Airbnbs, the other was still being renovated. So it wasn't making any income or anything. And so it was like, a lot of people could have said that was dumb, but it was like a timing thing. It was a safety thing. It's a whole, I think I talked to you about it in our last recording. If people want to go listen to that, they can hear the backstory.
Yeah, we'll
and
link
everything.
the episodes.
But that forced us to have way more overhead than we've ever had before. And it forced us, I've never budgeted before. I'm 40 years old and I've never budgeted before last year, which like being an accountant in my past life is like, okay, I know how to do it. I was very blessed to not have to do it ever before. Yeah. And I got to learn that skill and that hardship and that constriction for a season. And I think God wanted that to happen so that our family could see how deeply joyful and fulfilled we could be with less.
100%.
That's all.
100%.
And then he's going to give us more. And I have to practice. This is a responsibility of mine to continue practicing being that fulfilled and peaceful and joyful with more too. That's harder sometimes, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, the more money, more problems, you know, like there's a reason why that's a saying. And it is interesting. Like you think, and I think that these things happen too, to dismantle this belief that if only I had X amount of months, X amount of money in the bank, everything would make sense. I'd be more present. I'd be happier. I'd be doing all of these things. And it's like, would you? Okay, let's see. Let's bump up. And this is one of the things when you came to me with this 17K month, you're like, I feel nothing. This is why I was like, let's dig deeper into this, because there's to not have or not be able to live your life in such a way where if money comes in, it becomes detrimental, then you're going to continue to repel it. That's not what we want to do. If it comes in spite of your happiness, or if it again, detrimental, then it's sending the message that it's not good. Let's send less. She's better. She's happier. She's more present with less. Okay, cool. So great. And you are what you attract. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. And I think it's a rite of passage too, for us entrepreneurs who there's no ceiling in what we create. That's something that I think the earlier we get to experience that, it really is such a gift, because as entrepreneurs, things are going to ebb and flow. So when things are ebbing, which is nearly half the time in you know, on average in a lot of situations, if things are ebbing and you're freaking out, or even vice versa, you're not going to be having a good time. You're mostly going to be miserable. Yes. So it's something that to be aware of is going to improve a lot of facets of your life.
Yes. One interesting thing, and it's so crazy, and I meant to talk to you about this before we started recording. You and your mentor, Melanie and Lair, both teach a lot of there's a tenet of human design. We're not going to get into human design. If y'all want to know about human design, you can go back to, I think the first episode we did was all human design.
We do a deep dive. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a tenet of human design that's called Kabbalah. And a lot of people know about it because like Madonna got into it in the 90s or whatever. It's not a cult. It's not and I don't know if she even knew that it was an aspect of human design. It's basically what was downloaded to Moses, like some rule, if life is a game, these are the rules to succeed. And it's very much what Jesus taught. It's a lot of the mindset stuff you teach. And whenever I left your mastermind, I wasn't quite ready for like a group container, but I was ready for some sort of just diving into something new. And I was like, oh, I never learned, getting certified in human design. You don't have to dive into Kabbalah, but I wish I would have 4 years ago, but that's a whole other thing. Anyways, you can go, Kabbalah is you can pay $1 and take the class. It's very accessible to everybody. And it's just watching recorded videos. Not as good as some of your courses, but the information in there is very applicable to every situation. And my Kabbalah mentor, his name is David. He very much teaches first of all, when I've never worked one-on-one with him, but when he works one-on-one with people, it's mainly billionaires and multimillionaires that he's working with. He co-owns Mary Ruth's Organics with his wife, Mary Ruth.
Oh,
so he's
okay.
I think he's the CFO and she's the CEO. They were $700,000 in debt 10 years ago. And they built this business, which is now a multi-million-dollar company from scratch, which is pretty cool. His story is really neat. But he was like, the people that I work with the most are multimillionaires and billionaires who are not happy. And he's like, there's nothing, money didn't do this to them. They just thought that money would make them happy. And then it doesn't. And money solves so many problems. And I think it's Jim Carrey that was like, I wish everybody could become a multimillionaire because then you would know that it doesn't solve many. It solves some of the problems. And it definitely resources you if you're resourceful to get other things done. right?
Yeah. It's different level. There's still problems, different levels of problems. Yeah.
So in Kabbalah, he teaches, and that they all teach, that we have, when you think of like the devil or the enemy or whatever, they call it the opponent or Satan. And everybody has their own. And the more money you make, the more sneaky your opponent becomes. And it's actually a good thing. It's not like the devil who wants you to just go to hell and suffer. It's like an opponent. Like if you're playing basketball, you want to be playing against someone, or else it's going to be real boring. So it's this whole like new way of looking at that, of like, hey, if I'm making $20,000 a year, then I'm going to have a $20,000 a year opponent. They don't have to be that sneaky. They just sort of like get in your head and tell you that you're poor, right?
Wait, so is this like new levels, new devils? Aha.
But it's the same one. It just grows with you as you grow in financial wealth or spirituality or whatever. That opponent has to get sneakier and sneakier and sneakier. And it's like, it's just to grow your soul. It's to cleanse you of negativity, to cleanse you of, like at that $17,000 a month level, I had a pretty tricky opponent because he made it to where I wasn't even fulfilled with that money. And then I had to do the work as a human, as imperfect and as somebody with a soul, to be like, what's really going on here? Because it's not the money. It's really interesting. So that whole, like, that's in the past, like 4 months, that was like a new term that I learned. And it helps you too, because you're like, I'm not, like, it helps you realize where you're self-sabotaging or where you're not. Do you know what I mean? Because so many times we like blame ourselves. We're like, oh, well, I screwed this up, or I self-sabotaged or whatever. And sometimes that can then lower your self-worth. Like so many, you and I don't have as much of this problem. And it's part of our human design where it's like, I'm confident. Usually when something's an issue, I know that I have responsibility, but I'm not like, oh, well, I suck. I'm just not good enough. Some women have this issue, and you're a wonderful coach to help them freaking clean that up real fast. For me, I don't have a confidence or self-worth issue. It's like knowing how to outsmart the opponent more so. And like stepping into my power of like, oh, I'm stronger than you and more powerful than you because I am tapped into God and you're not. And I can overtake you. And here we go. Let's go. Like, this is a game kind of thing. So it's made the hard stuff sort of more fun, I guess, thinking of it in that way. Have you ever heard of that? I mean, new level, new devil, but
I hadn't heard in the way that you had just explained it, but it makes me think of when I can't remember what I was going through at the time. I want to say this is the time you came into my world at first. And when I was first getting in, so this had to have been 2020, maybe 2021. But I had this kind of breakthrough where it was like the new level, new devil breakthrough, where as you're growing to get to the next level, there's like I think of it like a video game where every level of a video game, there's the monster at the end of the game, the big hairy, like there's tiny, tiny little monsters that you got to like pounce on in the game and then that level. But then at the end, there's like the big gremlin and you have to try a few times before you get it right, and then you get to excel to the next level. And that came through for me. So like what you're explaining, it feels very on par with like, as you continue to grow, there's that to up level, there's the challenge, and it can come in any like the gremlin, the monster can look like losing an Instagram account, can look like losing a baby, can look like having marital issues, can look like dips in business, can look like clients that all of a sudden hate you and are, saying awful things about you on the internet, to tax issue. I mean, so many different things. It comes in all these little different packages. So is that on par with what you're saying? Okay, cool. So yeah. So when we think of the devil, and I've got an interesting relationship with Christianity because I consider myself a Christian, but it's like I also believe in reincarnation. So I don't know how those things work together. And that's my own journey. We don't need to talk about that. But when I think of the devil, I think like that's what it looks like, is not necessarily the challenges, because the challenges are such gifts. And I believe that God puts these on our path too, because we pray for growth and we want to grow. But also, I don't know. Now I don't even know what I'm saying related to that. But I like how you explain it. It's like, it's not this like dark entity
that we should fear.
That we should
fear. It's not something we should fear. It was this is really, I mean, you sort of have to practice it and then figure out what your beliefs are. Because we are all creators. We are made in the image of God, meaning we are creators like God. So we get to create whatever story that makes us feel the best. And that's what I'm very big on, like, everything is okay. Whatever religion or belief system or lack of belief system makes you the best human, then that's what you should do.
I agree.
Right? Whatever makes you the most kind, most loving, least judgmental person. Me as a super evangelical Christian, how I was in my teens and 20s, was not the best version of me. I was very judgmental. I'm still unlearning some of that stuff. Me as a open, spiritual, woo-woo Christian is the best version of me.
Yeah. Same.
You know?
Yes.
And it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Sort of.
But to look at like the growth and the new devil from a different lens too, is we kind of, us women who are listening, who are building brands and businesses, especially if you're a coach, especially if you want to be somebody that helps people in general, you have got to be prepared for different challenges. You just have to, like, to be able to be of service to somebody else, you have got to have gone through some stuff, right? Like I could not help you through money issues if I haven't gone through my own. You can't help other women who flow into your world who have lost babies if you hadn't experienced something similar on your own path. And I think like that gives me the most peace when it comes to challenges. And this is one of the things that really helped me navigate. And listen, losing an Instagram account compared to losing a baby, apples and oranges, not the same thing, but just it's top of mind because I just went through it. But so many people were like, how are you not freaking out? Because I was able to look at it from this perspective of this is growing me and serving me, and I'm going to be able to support other people. So I'm just going to fully trust that for whatever reason, it's a pain in the ass, I'm going to come out better.
I know, like when you were saying that, I know that some people could take, especially maybe somebody who just went through a miscarriage could be like, well, F Allie Reeves. She just said, like, compared losing a baby to an Instagram. Okay.
I'm not.
but here's the deal. Losing an Instagram account is your security and safety and like your being able to take care of your family with the way that it's not totally, because you do have an email list and you do have a podcast. But
it's, so that, it's essentially my storefront. Yeah.
Yeah. It is your life's work being taken away from you. And at a like ancestral level, that's like somebody coming and burning down a store.
Yeah.
You can't make money anymore. Right. So yeah, it is the same as losing a baby in a way, because there's like a sense of taking care of your family and safety and security and health. And am I going to be okay to it? So, I mean, I don't care if people get pissed about this, but it is the same in some ways, because your body was just the trauma of going through that miscarriage could be the same as the trauma of having your shop burned down. It really is, because that's your family's livelihood. So there you go. People can be pissed at me if they want, but it's the same. Your body doesn't know difference.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, they say like your body doesn't know the difference whether you're being chased by a lion or whatever. Like if you feel your nervous system getting that riled up, to be totally honest, I never got to that. I mean, I had like a tiny moment in the beginning where I was like, ah! And it was, over and gone in 10 minutes. So, but you might have, if this happened 6 months into you having a business
and it got taken away.
Totally. Well, and that's another thing. They're product pages where that's the only place that people sell products, right? And like when I was doing research to try and figure out how to get my account back, I would see videos and old stories of women who they were like bawling their eyes out. And I was like, I totally get it. My situation is so different than their situation. So this is also just a message to let's not judge each other for how we deal with certain situations and not belittle and, say, well, I wouldn't have handled it that way. You don't know until you're in it. And also it's all nuanced. It's all through different lenses.
And what you were talking about before too with Christianity and reincarnation, I believe in reincarnation. None of us, if you ever meet somebody who says that they know for sure one way or another.
Right, exactly.
They don't.
Exactly.
They don't, because none of us, maybe somebody that had just gone through a near-death experience might have a little bit more memory of this stuff, but nobody else does. So don't take it from me either. I personally believe in reincarnation. And I think that things that happen to us in a past life very much affect our bodies and souls now. For example, a few weeks ago, Caroline, I have a 4.5-year-old. She went through a potty training regression. She was like fully potty trained, like sleeping through the night, like everything. Freaked out and will not get in the bath anymore and will not sit on the potty anymore. Oh. And so I went to my energy healer and had her like do a session on her and figure out, she was like past life thing. She probably drowned in a past life, and her brain is remembering that at age 4.5. Like our certain parts of our brain turn on at different ages. Wow. So the memory part that remembered that she drowned in a past life or had some kind of very traumatic water issue turned on. No more baths, no more sitting on the potty. She cleared it. She now will bathe. She wants to just do showers for now, but that's freaking fine. And she will sit on the potty and go to the bathroom. But like, we don't know if like somebody else who's absolutely freaking out in a way that seems irrational to you was like a witch in a past life and burned at the stake. And so they're like freaking out about people not liking them because they think that if people don't like them, then they're going to get killed. Mm-hmm. I know this is a little woo-woo for some people, but it's a thing. I'm
here for it. It is such a thing. I fully believe in it too. And I was actually just thinking, because I did a past life reading, and I was actually really disappointed who I was in a past life. I was like, I was a teacher, which is cool. Yeah. But it was nothing. I wanted to hear that I was like something super cool, and I wasn't. So there's
you could have been an alien in a past life or a witch or something. This might have just been your most recent one. And it might have been
it was recent. Chill. It was like 1800s.
That was probably your one before this, from what I've learned about past lives.
That's so crazy.
And then you probably had one in Bible times, and you probably had past ones. So you can go do another one and go to a spicier life if you want to.
Did you ever read Journey of Souls?
No, but I'm writing it down.
Oh my gosh.
I can't believe it. I've not heard of it. What? I need to hear about it right now.
Okay. Journey of Souls. This book, there are just some things you hear. I don't know. This is how I respond to things. Some things I hear and you don't know why, but it's just truth to you. It's like, that's it. That's it. When I read this book, that's what it was for me. And that's what finally got me over the hump of like being able to articulate what I believe, which is reincarnation, that we reincarnate multiple times. We have past lives. We have karma. We come here to sow our oats, to deal with that, and also to excel as souls and to evolve as souls. But I never, prior to this book, I would hear people talk about, whatever, and about similar subjects, and I'd be like, yeah, I think maybe that, like that, that's seeming to resonate. But this book, okay, so what was the guy's, anyway, I can't remember his name, the guy who wrote it, but he was a psychologist. And he effed around on accident. Like he would do hypnosis stuff, and he accidentally past life regressed somebody. Oh. And he was like, what is happening? And then he realized, and then he was able to do it again. long story short, this book is his life's work of all of the past life regressions. And what was so fascinating, and I listened to the book, I actually recommend if you have Audible, get it on Audible because it's really cool to listen to, especially if you have like a long drive or something. But all of the past life regressions, and these are people that don't know each other from Adam, right? Different states. Like eventually he made a name for himself and became known for this and got like a wait list of 1 million people. And this just became his life's work. And he consolidated it in these books. There's Journey of Souls and there's another one. And every single recount, past life, they all were the same in terms of what happens when you die, where you go, your soul family, and like what happens on the other side, deciding to come back, getting to choose your parents, getting to choose what part of the world based on how you want to evolve, and like why some children have to die. Like, and that was really healing for me because I have a little sister who passed away in a car accident at the age of 9 and I was 11. And to hear like his, or at least like the past life, what they figured out, or at least like what this mom got from this was karma. Like her and the dad chose to come together, have a baby, and it was their karma to go through this experience. And the child is also on board with this. They chose to participate in this too. And it just gave me a lot of peace. To an extent. Anyway, when I heard this book, I was like, that's it. That's it. I don't know why that's it. It just feels so it to me. It makes too much sense. And it kind of awakened me.
Yeah. I wrote it down. It will be the next.
Yeah. Let me know what you think.
I'm excited.
And
that is one thing we can go through really quick, some of the energy updates for 2024, because I know we haven't really even gotten there. I'll just go through it really fast. Some of these I am doing episodes on each of the updates. So just come over to YouDoWoo and search around and you might see some of these there. One of them is people, and there's a reason for this, and you can look it up on NASA. So we're having more solar flares than normal. Right now, I don't know if you've experienced this. There's been some nights where I am not sleeping. Like I am up, Caroline is up. It's just been wacko. February and March. We're having more solar flares. You can look it up on nasa.gov, org, whatever it is, the NASA website. They're intensifying as well. And I think by the time this episode comes out, we'll actually already probably be in eclipse season. So eclipse season is happening March 25th through beginning of May. There's going to be a lot more solar flares. That's sort of an astrological thing, but it's also just like astronomy too. Even if you're not woo-woo, eclipse season is something that is intense. Usually a lot of change, a lot of shifts. Last year, I saw a lot of like external shifts. We moved. A lot of people made decisions to like start homeschooling, start doing, like different safety things, family things, stuff like that. Now it's going to be a little bit more of internal shifts, which means people are going to be waking up, becoming much more open-minded, questioning literally everything, not from like a paranoid or conspiracy. Don't get me started on conspiracy theories. So that's a whole other thing. But like some are crazy, but some were like, okay, well, this is the truth now. So here we go.
Do we need to talk about Kate Middleton?
Right.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
But like there's going to be a lot of awakenings and a lot of people questioning things out of like more open-mindedness, less fear-based reactions, more curious reactions, more open-hearted reactions, more looking at things from like a total worldview, not just like, is this best for me? But like, okay, we need to make sure this person's taken care of and this person's taken care of. At the same time, with, if you heard me talk about this before, 2020 to 2027 is a really big shift in our world. We're moving from a collective form of humanity to an individualistic form of humanity. And it's going to be really good. There's not going to be, y'all are going to see this play out really in weird ways with our election. I think you're already sort of seeing it where we're not just right or left anymore. There's other stuff going on and it's cool. And
it's so
you
cool.
see, like I have one of my best friends from college. I love her dearly. She's like one of the biggest Trump supporters ever. Love her. She's amazing. All the things. She DM'd me the other day and was like, I'm sort of disgusted with both presidential candidates right now. And I'm actually like watching RFK. You know, and it doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum, but we're going to be seeing there's polarity, but y'all are going to start seeing us as individual humans being like, well, I voted for Biden last time, but I don't really like this. Well, I was thinking I was going to vote for Trump, but I don't like this. And
Thank
I really
God.
think, do you know what I mean?
That's the way it should be. Yes.
Yeah. And we're not, it's like, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're a Trumper. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you're for Biden. Like, it's going to be a different election than 2020. So be ready for that and be ready to just really listen to each other, be kind to each other, watch your words, watch your thoughts, don't do evil speech. It's going to be different. So that's going to be one thing to think about. Also, money is going to change in some ways. There's some people out there who are, it's very like fearful, like, oh my God, they just increased the debt ceiling again. Our financial institutions are going to collapse. I think things are going to change, but I think they're going to change slowly. And I think that there's going to be more wealth in the hands of really good people who are going to be making decisions for our environment, for social issues that we need help with, for freedoms that we need to help with. And I think the only thing that can help that, like speed up, that we can do to help speed up is for us who are already awake and spiritual and working on ourselves and all of that, to just be anchors of peace and anchors of groundedness for ourselves and our families, right? Continue bringing in your money, continue making the investments you want, set yourself up in a safe, secure way, and know that in the next few years, society as a whole is going to be valuing health and energy at the same level we value money now. So money's sort of the end all be all now, right? Causing some problems in some areas, like extreme consumerism and capitalism. And capitalism's not bad and money's not bad. We just need a little bit of a balanced out situation over the next few years. And we do need to see that health, relationships, community, and our energy, like our literal, like how our cells are vibrating, are going to be just as important, if not more, than what's in our bank accounts.
Fantastic.
So that's another energetic update. I think also the last thing I sort of wanted to talk about is our bodies are becoming more sensitive. So you might see more health issues for a little while if you're not eating the right things, drinking enough filtered water, all that kind of stuff, spending enough time in the sun, spending enough time in nature, all things that are pretty free or, you know, don't cost too much. Our bodies are going to start reacting if we're not taking care of them. And the healing aspect of that can happen faster too. Time is just speeding up in a lot of ways. So bodies can degenerate faster now and bodies can heal faster now. But I think that the health things are going to be the way some people have to, quote unquote, wake up. Those of us who already take care of our physical bodies, we're going to have to start helping other people and resourcing other people of like, okay, hey, maybe you need a little bit more protein and less sugar. Maybe we need to do this. Maybe we need to do that. And I'm not perfect. And my kid eats mac and cheese and chicken nuggets sometimes. And we're starting to try to be like, okay, let's try to eat, you know, a few more green things and try this out. And,
everything
just
in moderation.
Adding.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just that people are going to be aware of that. Like my husband is drinking a ton less and he's like taking his vitamins for the first time in the 11 years that we've known each other, just because he's been having some health issues. And he's like, okay, I'm realizing like I have to make changes. So it's almost like we're going to become more sensitive. So don't be surprised if you find yourself needing to move your body more, be outside more, turn your phone off more, eat more veggies and good proteins, drink more water. I know that that's just a like simple thing, but that's something that I think really is going to come through this year.
It's all simple. And that's the point. All of the best things, all of the most healing things for us can be found in our home as we speak right now. That's and it's all by design. Like everything works together. So I actually love that you say that. And I've been noticing this too. I mean, I've been on a health journey for a while and super aware of this, but it's all of a sudden coming back up in my awareness because I can feel where I've fallen off, particularly with food and sugar. And I'm not sick. I feel really good, but it's like this internal voice that is nagging me. That's like, you need to stop. Like it's time to nip this in the bud. And I've been feeling the same. And I've talked about my journey with alcohol and how I feel about it. And I've in large part cut back majorly. I have not gone sober, but I'm still feeling a pull towards sobriety, which is so interesting. And the resistance there, I need to continue to look at, and all of us do. But I would fully agree with you because a lot of times, like you said, people become aware of this and make changes because something's gone wrong. But for me, and I think a lot of people too, I would raise this like, are you hearing this little voice? Because oftentimes we'll get whispers before we get yells. And the sickness is the yell. The sickness is like, okay, now you have to pay attention to me. Yeah. So our intuition knows what's up. So if you have any ways of quitting sugar, I'm here.
Oh man. You know who you should interview for the podcast? The glucose goddess.
Well, I love her name.
I'll send her to you on Instagram, but she'd be a great guest. I mean, I don't know. She has like 3 million followers or something. She's amazing.
Is that what she does? Yeah. She helps you
with blood sugar, with cutting sugar cravings. Totally. Yeah.
Well, there you go. See, there's a reason why I brought that up.
Yeah.
Glucose goddess, guys.
And she'd be fun to have on the podcast, and it'd be awesome for both, like a good little pot swap thing.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be more sensitive. We're going to be going toward a more individualistic vibe, wanting to do what's right for us versus looking to everybody else and saying, how do you feel? What side are you on? What are you doing? What's everybody else?
There's no sides anymore. Well, there's 9 billion sides. How many people do we have? 8 point something
close to
billion?
9, yeah.
That's how many sides there's going to be because we're all individual.
Yeah.
We're all so different.
That's going to get confusing.
Right? It's going to be very, that there's such a waste of time in the poles, the polarities. You know, everything's polarity. There's dark and light. But as far as like being like left or right, it's such a waste of time. It's such a waste of time and energy, and it's truly all an illusion. So that's going to go away. Yeah.
Thank God. I think that's my most favorite thing that you just said, because I've never understood agreeing with a side just because you've always been on a side. That is wild to me. Wild. So that makes me really happy. And I mean, there's a reason why there's a saying, live and let live. So it sounds like are we going more to that energy again of like, do what's best for you. I'm going to do what's best for me. And let's love each other in the process. Are we all becoming hippies again?
Yeah. So one thing with the human design new paradigm shift that has always been talked about. I think 1987 was when human design was founded and all of this information came through. That 2027 was a big deal. So it was like 40 years from then. One of the main things was that if you're familiar with chakra centers, like with our energy centers in our body, the spleen, it's an organ, but it's also a chakra center. It's in charge of fear and keeping us safe. Apparently, it's going to be dissolving that chakra center. So we're no longer going to be making decisions from fear.
Oh, that's hot.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Wow. Can you imagine? Like, I want everybody just to stop and think right now.
No more.
No more. Taking action from a place of, well, what if this awful, awful thing happens? Then what should I do to prevent that? That's crazy.
No more wars, no more hating each other, no more resentment, no more anger. I mean,
so by 2027, do you really think that's the
I don't
case?
know if it's going to be by 2027. When you have these universal seasons, sometimes there's certain years where it's like we're going into it. So for example, the last time, I'm not an astrologer, so don't quote me on this and tell me if I have a planet wrong. I think the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was the American Revolution, but it was maybe like a year before it started. So then the revolution came after, and then obviously it took a few years to settle things. Now we're in Pluto and Aquarius again.
Oh boy.
Doesn't mean that a revolutionary war is going to happen, but there is a lot of revolutionary
personal,
energy.
individual revolution. Yeah.
It's for our own freedom and being like freedom of speech, freedom, like medical freedoms, freedom to believe what we want to, religious freedoms, all of that kind of stuff. It's going to come up again.
I love that.
So yeah.
That's
and it'll
fantastic.
be here for the next, I think it's going to be Pluto's like the most, I mean, it's not really a planet anymore, but in astrology it's the furthest one. And so it takes 200 years to come back around. So we're going to be in this for 200 years, this like new paradigm, new earth type vibe. It's going to take, there's going to be some crap to go through to get to it in the next 5 to 10 years. But I think everybody who's listening to your podcast, at least, is very aware and probably already went through most of their really big hardships 2020 to now. I know I did in a lot of the awakenings and stuff. We're going to have to start putting our hand out and helping those that are flipping out over the next few years because their 3D reality is being shook in some ways.
Because they're going, okay, yeah. So if you've already gone through your proverbial dark night of the soul, then it's not on you, but it's an option to support other people as they're navigating that. And I think that's actually something really wise to bring awareness to, because back to what we were saying earlier, everybody responds to different traumatic events differently, obviously. And this is going to be one of those examples. Just because you're quote unquote awake or more awake than somebody else, or you think you are, doesn't mean that they are, or that like everybody has their own process of going through that. So I think just overall having an air of more patience, less judgment, but then also using your own voice and supporting people as they navigate this new season for them. Because when you are waking up, it's a scary time and you're questioning everything. You don't know what is up and down. And I mean, I know for me, that was one of the most confusing times in my life. And then you come out the other side, you're like, okay, a little bit more grounded, still questioning everything, but from a much more or less dramatic place. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah. So I do think all of us who are teachers and mentors and coaches have a extremely big responsibility to be that, whether you have one-on-one coaching or membership spots, or you're creating a community, or you're a podcaster or whatever, you have to start talking about the stuff that you're going through to normalize these feelings of being unstable for a little bit in 3D reality. There's going to be a lot of career shifts. There's going to be a lot of people going through major emotional waves. You and I don't really have emotional waves. Usually if there's something external or other people who are going through emotions, that's uncomfortable for us. But you and I don't really do that so much. But a lot of people are going to be, and they're going to need community, support, resources to help them make some sense of it. So that's our responsibility as leaders and mentors in this space.
Oh boy, this is so.
It's going to be good though.
It feels it feels mostly positive, which I was really hoping for, because I wasn't sure what you were going to tell us today. So I'm very thankful that we did have this conversation. Is there anything else you want to add or talk about?
No, if you guys, if this was your vibe, you can totally come and start listening to my podcast. I'm going to try to do monthly energy updates for y'all so that you have that. And then I just bring on like woo-woo guests, and we talk about human design and gene keys and Kabbalah and all of the things, and Christianity too. That's one thing that I do think Christianity is going to be changing in the next few years in the way that Jesus would have wanted it to be. Because I truly don't believe he came to start a whole new religion or church. I think he came to help us break free from rules and dogma and anything that sort of could hold us back, and to show us that we can do the same thing he was doing.
Yeah.
Because we all are a creator, So I think it's going to be beautiful in so many ways. Anybody listening to this, you're probably going to be noticing your hardships are a little bit more just staying calm through chaos, not like anything crazy, because there's going to be so many changes for everybody else that we're going to need to be these grounded folks and the people leading and the people resourcing and all of that kind of stuff. And I also think that over the next 6 to 9 months, we're going to need to learn how to tap into like extreme joy and euphoria and fulfillment and be examples as people who are freaking having a blast in their lives, regardless of what's going on anywhere else. Because, okay, this is something that I just looked up the other day. Have you heard of David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins? He wrote the book Letting Go.
Wait, that sounds so familiar.
I'm sure you have. So Dr. David Hawkins, he does research, or he might be dead, but he did research on consciousness. He said that one person vibrating at the energy of peace can counterbalance 90,000 people vibrating in negative energy. So what's really interesting is we have 8.1 billion people on Earth today, give or take. So that 8.1 billion divided by the 90,000 he was talking about is only 90,000 people. We only need 90,000 people vibrating at peace daily to create a consciousness shift in the whole world. So like I live close to Austin, Texas. There's about only 10% of the city of Austin. Austin has like 1 million people growing. If 10% of the city of Austin could vibrate in peace for like an hour a day, we'd have a worldwide consciousness shift upgrade. No more wars. No more anything bad. That's not that many people.
Crazy. That's not that many people at all. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking like, surely we have, but no, not maybe at the vibe of peace. And it's the intentionality too. That's so interesting. Okay. So if you could give us parting call to actions that you, based on the state of the energy and what we're shifting into and the new paradigm that's slowly unfolding right now, what would be some call to actions to, I guess, navigate this intentionally, but also ride the wave in the best way, like really reap the benefits of what's happening?
A couple things. One is what I just talked about. Figure out some kind of ritual that you can have daily. You were the one who taught me about this, like back when I think you were pregnant with Rhett, and you were blessing your water and doing your coffee and whatever. If that vibes for you, cool. That's like a great ritual. Figure out something that's like at least 30 minutes of time with you or time with God, if you believe in God, of really just getting into a vibe of peace, joy, love, gratitude, fulfillment. If everybody who listens to this podcast to do that for like 30 minutes a day, you're going to make a big shift. So
it changes your life. It changes your life.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
It seems so little, but honestly, the world, your children and your children's future depend on us doing this right now.
Yeah.
Right now, things could go one of two ways. We could be creating a new Earth in the next 3 years, or we could be no longer a human species because we're messing things up. I think it's going to go the first way, and we can all do this together. So that, and then I would also really connect with your higher self or God and say, what is my purpose the next 5 years? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to be the best freaking mom I could be? Cool. Do you want me to figure out this badass career and grow it so that we can have financial stability? And that's like one less thing we have to worry about. And I can take care of my family and we can take care of our community and I can be a role model. Cool. Whatever. God will tell you what you're supposed to be doing. And for me, that's like a little bit of a combination. It's being a better mom and wife every day as I can while still having grace with myself and just being the most potent vessel for human design, God, spirituality, all the different things that I can be. That's very clear to me, but I'm also very surrendered to say, hey, at any moment, if you want me to do something else, I'm down. I'm not afraid to pivot because everybody's going to have to be pivoting in the next few years, unless you're like us who have sort of settled into our deal the past few years. But we had to pivot at one time too.
Oh
which
God, I've
scary.
pivoted 1,000 times.
Yeah.
1,000. Can I ask you, I don't know if you're done with this list, but real quick.
I'm done. Those are the two things.
Oh, those are, okay, cool. Thank you. The super, super helpful. And I co-sign, could not agree more. My follow-up question, because I'm curious your answer, but I also know listeners might be asking this question. How does God speak to you?
It's not vocal, like it's not out loud.
Mm-hmm.
It is more so it's a head thing, but the heart feels good while it's happening. So it's like, it's definitely a head thing. It's almost like if somebody's talking to you in a dream. You know what they said to you, but you might not be able to like actually hear the voice because it's a still small voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
It comes human design wise, we're spoken to all very differently. And it's called your authority in human design, and it's different chakra centers. So some people it's more so in their spleen. Some people it's in their gut. For me, I sort of download it in my brain, but it's like a really good feeling in my heart and a heck yes in my gut, like a body, yes, this is correct.
Yeah.
God's been waking me up between like 1 and 4 lately. I don't know if it's the solar flares or whatever. And so I just, instead of fighting it and trying to go back to sleep, I just make my coffee and I sit and I journal. And so a lot of times things come out that way. That's how sometimes if I'm meditating or just resting, ideas will come to me. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I think people are thinking they're going to hear this man voice like God. I don't know many people who've heard that, but for me, it comes through ideas.
Yeah, mine, it comes from knowing. I would agree. And I've heard people reflect this too, that it's never going to be a fear thing. It's never going to feel bad. It's never going to feel scary. It's always going to, whether you, because I have heard people hear voices, usually in dire situations. But it's always like the most peaceful, calm, you never feel fear. But I would agree. I think it is different for everybody. And for me, it's always when I'm relaxed. It's always when I'm in a good, like, I guess at that vibration to be able to hear it.
Yeah, I think your amygdala has to be off, which is your fear center in your brain. Mm-hmm. It's like that fight or flight deal. And when that is off, then you can plug in. It's almost like, the vacuum cleaner, the plug. You know how when they're new, they come with those that cover, the plastic cover on the prongs of the plug. It's almost like you have to take that cover off to be able to plug it in, or you're never going to get that.
Oh.
And the plug or the cover is like fear or logic, using our brains for logic, which can be good sometimes, but usually the right answer is not logical.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I would agree. Couldn't agree more.
God's not logical.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been fun. This has been enlightening, and it's just felt really good to connect with you. And also the added benefit of hearing what the heck is going on. To me, everything that I'm taking from this feels very positive. Like, I'm very excited about what you've shared today. And I hope that people listening feel the same, but however you feel is perfect. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you for this.
Thank you for having me on. And thank you for being open-minded and available to all of this information. And I didn't, we've talked a lot about our beliefs in the past, but I didn't know we were so spot on the way that we believe. So that makes me happy. It's fun to sort of chat back and forth with you on all the woo-woo.
Well, I've never had the courage to say out loud that I believe in reincarnation. I actually just thought about that the other day. I was like, oh my gosh, I believe this. And, and to each their own, believe what you want. Who, at the end of the day, who knows? We don't. So do you, and you do woo. Okay. So we're going to link all of the things, guys. I cannot recommend you do woo more. I'll link past episodes. Please go listen to the human design episode if it's been a while or you want to learn more about your own human design. I believe in that episode, we linked where they can find out what their human design is. You just need to know the time you were born, where you were born, and your birthday. Exactly. That's your birthday is the time you're born.
And if you have issues with knowing when you were born, like the time of day, send me a DM. I have resources to help figure that out for you.
Oh, so, I have a client actually that I'm going to send to you then because she's dying to figure it out and she can't find her birth certificate. So I will send her your way. Okay. So we'll link all of that. Is there anywhere else you recommend people to go for anything besides the Instagram podcast? Okay, cool.
Instagram and podcast, and just come and say hi. 2024 is going to be wild, but it's really going to be good. And I really want y'all to see it from the new earth, the heaven on earth vibe, because if enough of us can see that as our very near future, then we're going to create it.
Yes. It's all about the perspective. We're ending this at 1:11, an hour and 11 minutes, which I love.
Perfect.
Thank you, Allison Cullen.
Love you so much.
Love you.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming.